Kenya has just received 1.5 billion USD from a Eurobond that was issued in Feb. And the terms of this loan are that this bond is going to go for 10.5 years. It's going to mature in 2036. And the coupon rate is 9.5%. The coupon rate is the interest rate by which we are going to pay off these international investors every single year until the 10.5 years lapse. The amount of money is equivalent to around 198 billion Kenyan shillings. This is not the first time that you are getting a Eurobond. The first time that we went to the international market and borrowed money in USD, because that's a Eurobond, was in 2014. 2014 was the time that we decided to say, yes, we need to borrow internationally. Now, a Eurobond is a bond that is borrowed internationally and it's denominated in USD or in a foreign currency. In this case, it's USD. And it's the international investors, the wealthy investors who get to lend Kenya money. Like I say, this is not the first bond. Let me just show you the list of Eurobonds that have been issued since 2014. The first one was issued in 2014, like I said. It was 2 billion USD. That's how much we borrowed. And afterwards, we have had these other Eurobonds that have been issued. And my argument is that the first Eurobond actually opened the Pandora's box. Because what you'll notice, like I'm going to show you, is that the bonds that we are borrowing, the Eurobonds that we are issuing rather, the proceeds of those Eurobonds are being used to pay off the other Eurobonds that have been issued. For example, the first Eurobond that was issued in 2014, that was to mature last year, it matured last year, affected us as a country. It did, because around January, February last year, the value of the Kenyan shilling was going for around 160 shillings, 161 shillings. And reason being that investors thought that we as a country, we were going to default paying that 2 billion, the first Eurobond, because it was due in June 2024. So investors were taking out their investments and the exchange rate went down. The central bank could not intervene as much to stabilize the exchange rate because the reserves that they have, the money that they have stashed up somewhere to help us in such a case, had to be used to repay this bond. Remember, we are paying these bonds in USD. So it was a dilemma. How do we pay back this Eurobond that is going to mature? So eventually, the government went ahead and issued a Eurobond, this one here, that was issued in Feb 2024. And you can see that it's the highest coupon Eurobond. It's the one that has the highest cost to us, because this 10.375% might be attractive to an investor, but it's a cost on us because every single year we have to pay more money, 10.375% as interest until the Eurobond matures. So part of the proceeds of this Feb 2024 were used to pay back this bond, the one that was issued initially in 2024. So you can see we are taking money, we are issuing a bond to pay back another bond. In fact, the one that has just been issued, the 1.5 billion USD, Treasury has just communicated that part of this bond, part of the money that we've received, is going to be used to pay back a Eurobond. This one here. We have one that is going to mature in 2027. This one, the one that is offering 7%, and it's 900 million USD. So we have issued a bond. The money that we've received, we're going to use it again to pay off the initial bond, or rather another bond that was issued earlier. So this is the Pandora's box that I'm talking about. We have become reliant, if not over-reliant, on these Eurobonds. You can see that all these bonds that have been issued, except for the first one, we have to pay back that money. We have to pay back that money. This is not free money. This is money that has to be paid back again in USD. So we have to have enough USD to pay back these bonds. Why do we borrow money? Like I said, right now we are borrowing money to pay back the initial loan that we took. We also borrow money to finance some of the development projects that we have. In fact, one of the arguments as to why we took the first Eurobond, as to why the first Eurobond was issued back in 2014, was because the government then wanted to reduce the pressure that was on domestic debt. Because prior to 2014, the government was borrowing money from the members of public, which they still do. They still issue bonds every single month and treasury bills every single week. But they were trying to reduce pressure on that. That was the argument that they give. They say that this 2 billion that was borrowed then was going to be used for infrastructural projects, for development projects. In fact, I was listening to a clip where one of the heads of one of those departments was mentioning that part of the money that was borrowed in this Eurobond was used in investing in the energy sector, the energy and petroleum sector, the geothermal sector. Building roads, part of this money went to the water and irrigation department. So the question that I have, and the question that most people had then, was that, can you tie this money that you have borrowed internationally to a certain project? Can we say, okay, out of this 2 billion USD, 1 billion USD went here, and you can actually do an audit and track that? Till to date, that information is vague. There's lack of accountability in terms of how does the money tree look like? How can we tie this to this, this to this, this to this? I'm not a politician, but I was listening to Jimmy Wanjigi because he has been an insider. He has worked in the government, and he was talking about how his lack of accountability, that allegedly, this money was not spent according to the plan. And he even gave the argument that we have in terms of why we are taking these Eurobonds, that when a budget is being presented to Parliament, like right now we have the finance bill in place. Right now we already know that for 2025-2026 our budget is 4.2 trillion. That is the projected amount. And last year it was around 3.9 trillion. There's that increment. That when a budget is being tabled in Parliament, we need to have two sides. We need to have the expenditure bit, which we already know that, okay, there's a budget for education, there's a budget for health, this is how much you're going to spend. So we have the expenditure side, but do we have the revenue side? Do we have the figures or the projected figures in terms of how much are we planning or projecting to collect in terms of revenue? So that whatever it is that we are spending and whatever it is that we are collecting, any deficit that we have should justify the loans that we are taking. That's his argument, and that is not being done correctly. In fact, he even went ahead to mention that, remember the deficit that we have. So we have expenditures and we have revenues. The difference should be the debt. And debt can be split into two. We have domestic debt, and we have international debt. So his argument is that if we were to take out the domestic bit, that is the bonds and the treasury bills that we have, so that we only have the tax that we collect, and we have the foreign debt, that money is enough. So his argument is that, of course, there's bad governance, money is being stolen, but I can't verify that. That is just allegedly. But the point is, we need accountability in terms of this money that we're borrowing. How is it being spent? How can we tie this? Probably there's such information. If you know of any, let me know. But that is what we need. And even if it's there, we need it to be transparent. Because any loan, even the Eurobond, even these international debts that we have, that money is not free. That money has to be paid back. At what point in time will this cycle ever end? At what point in time will we be sustainable? Even if we have debt, it's debt that is manageable. Because for that to happen, we need an economy that has grown. We need a lot of economic growth so that we get to a point where we no longer need these loans, or we need these loans, but they are sustainable. But then you might argue that the issue that we have is not economic growth per se. It's bad governance, poor leadership, weak institutions that can hold this bad governance accountable. So my question to you is, what do you think is the solution? And also, if you are in a position of power, what would you do different? How would you solve this issue? And if we were to get to that point where at least we are doing well economic-wise, at least we now have better governance, how long will it take us? Will it happen in this generation or in the generations to come?